Welcome back, my good busters. On here once again, playing a little more of a thing called Ghostbusters for the Genesis. I hope all you Yanks out there are having a good Memorial Day. My congratulations to those of you with some time off, and my sympathies to those of you stuck working today. For me, it's a little bit of a trade-off. I do have the day off, but I have to make up a full 40 hours over the course of the week. So that means for the next 4 days, I'm going to be working 10 hours each. Which means early to bed and early to rise, which is really not my style, so it's gonna suck a little bit, and I'm not really looking forward to it, but hey. Back to the game at hand, we found out last time that there'd been a mysterious earthquake in the New York City area, and all the ghosts seem to be coming out of hiding. On the downside, that means supernatural infestations everywhere, but on the bright side, that means paying customers for our gentlemen in the jumpsuits. Well, last time we cleaned out Home Sweet Home and the Woody house, leaving us the apartment at High Rise, which I've been saving until I got the phaser shell, but we've got it now, so let's head to the apartment. Right now, I'm living in an apartment. When I woke up this morning, the place was full of water. Actually, I'm not entirely sure that's a job for the Ghostbusters. I think what you want, sir, is a plumber. But no, as we will see in just a moment, the place is well and truly haunted. And, yeah. I think he made the right call bringing us in. As you can see, the place is not only full of water, it's largely frozen water. It's very cold here for some reason. And in a nice little touch, we will occasionally see little puffs of breath coming out of the good Dr. Stance's mouth. No actual standing liquid water yet, but we will encounter that soon enough. And money, always good. These ice ingots here are like the log platforms in the Woody house. If you stand on them for a moment, they will fall off the screen, in this case just melting rather than bursting into flame. I assume we're exploring the apartment building in general rather than just this one guy's apartment, because otherwise I hate to even think about what he's paying in rent. This can be a little tricky because the ice golem here is a little bit unpredictable about when it will reverse directions, even though it just walks back and forth. Oh well. In this room here, the little pickaxe guys will slowly make their way towards you while occasionally digging downward through the ice blocks. So they'll always head towards you, but it's not entirely predictable whether they'll dig down or horizontally towards you at any given moment, so sometimes you need to be a little bit patient and wait for them to dig a path that will actually allow you to move forward, as you see here. Also, with their bright coloring and the whole breaking through ice blocks motif, these guys really remind me of the Snow Beast from Pengo. Anyone remember Pengo? I really liked that back in the day. In fact, it was my favorite arcade game for a little while. I recall there were versions with background music that was popcorn, and then there was a version that had original music, possibly for copyright reasons. I always liked the non-popcorn version better. But enough of that, we've got a mini-boss here. And I don't remember what its official name was, they were all in the manual, but I at least always called this the Banshee. Not that she ever does any screaming or anything, but the whole flying, raggedy-dressed, female spirit thing, I guess, just always gave me a Banshee vibe. And as you can see, she will fly around overhead and fire a three-way shot down at you. Nothing too difficult to avoid. And occasionally she will stop in flight and split into three, and then one of the three will become vulnerable. So that's your opportunity to do damage. You cannot be harmed in any way while flying around. And any one of the three that she splits into can randomly become the target. The other two are impervious to all harm. And you kind of want to hope it's either the top one or the middle one, because those are by far the easiest to hit. The top one, as you can see, you can just fire diagonally at. And for the middle one, you can just jump up and fire at roughly the apex of your jump and shoot her in the face, which is where you have to do your damage. The one on the bottom requires a rather trickier timing. You just have to fire at just the right point in your jump close to the ground level, and that's no fun. But aside from it sometimes taking a little while to get your hits in, and actually get enough damage done to end the fight, not a difficult boss. In fact, I am pleased to say I got through that one without taking a hit. Also, I forgot to change my settings for 60 frames per second recording this time. Apologies for that. But at least we got to see a little bit of the proton beam there. Over this weekend, I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. Thanks again very much to the ever-wonderful Mr. Justin Carpenter for that gift. I think I am definitely going to LP that eventually, but in the meantime, I am very much enjoying the practice run. Some of the changes and the new enemy placements are pretty interesting. My god, there are a lot of pursuers. Those who've played the game will know what I'm talking about. If not, well, you'll see eventually. But yeah, pursuers, goddamn, I think I've fought like 6 or 7 of them at this point. And yes, there's water here. Back to the game we're actually playing right now. Nothing special about swimming. You can stay underwater for as long as you want. And there are these big squid guys that cannot actually be killed in any way that I've been able to determine. But you can blow off their side tentacles and make the middle one retract. They'll withdraw them, not withdraw, they'll regenerate them quickly enough, but it gives you enough time to swim by. Likewise, you can't get rid of these icicles permanently. They will always respawn quickly enough, but you can shoot them out of the way to give yourself a little bit of an opening. And we should be coming along to our second mini-boss very shortly. And then we will have the actual level boss, who is manageable without the phaser shell, but it helps a lot, and you will see why. For now, however, we have a larger and more brightly colored ice golem to deal with. And it kind of splits into segments, as you can see, and does a swinging motion across the area. Just stay low and you shouldn't have too much problem. Other times it will fire a laser and cause a little chunk of ice to appear at ground level. You'll want to either get far enough back or crouch at closer range. And as you can see, you can destroy the ice chunks and make your life a little easier, but it's really not necessary. They do burst at you, but not very far. And finally, sometimes it will just do a series of 3 jumps, but hey, as Kenshiro would say, it's already dead. Another very easy boss, no hits taken. We will definitely be taking hits on the level boss, but I think we'll be coming out on top in the end. Oh, and we're in the right quadrant of the map. Even better. Didn't really need that spud, but thank you for the spud juice anyway. And here's our boss. So let's get equipped with Phaser Shell. As you can see, it fires very slowly in a fire projectile form. But it's not all bad. Ha ha ha! Do you humans think you can challenge me? Ha ha! You don't know my power. Go for it, you little runts. I'll skewer you in the bargain. And bad Mr. Frosty here takes a few moments to properly activate, but once he does, he starts spawning minions by the buttload, and they in turn will fire their little carrot noses at you. Now the nifty thing about the Phaser Shell, it travels very slowly, but it does constant damage while it passes through enemies. So chewing through all the little snowmen here is no problem for it, which is great because you can really get overwhelmed here. In fact, I will be needing my Peking duck. And so we can let the Phaser Shell Fireball just pass slowly through the minions, and through the big snowman himself, and all will take damage in the bargain. It's very handy that way. I also like the little flamethrower jet sort of pilot light thing that comes out of the end. No shenanigans like at the end of the Woody house, but we did get the tablet piece, and that's the important thing. You really saved me. I want you to have this. The Ghostbusters are for real, and I'm grateful. Well, I guess there are still a few skeptics out there, but we've convinced this gentleman. Always good for future business. And now we've gotten the third piece of the tablet. One more and we'll have the whole thing. Boy, I've been so busy I really feel done in. Just once I'd like to have time for a date. I feel you, Ray. What are you talking about? Have a look at this. Little cameo by the PKE meter, and since we've got the stone tablet, the energy level has gotten very high. Don't you think the tablet has the power to collect the power of the ghosts? Well, anyway, we've got to get all the pieces of the tablet. I'm not sure entirely why, but nevertheless, we have an opportunity to expand our max energy here, which, as we're now using special weapons, we'll certainly want to do. Want to make sure I get a restock of my $1,500 Peking duck. And now we can spend the rest on energy tanks. Alright, I think the $8,000 one is the last, so once we get that much money scraped together, we can max out our maximum energy. And time for our last immediate stop, the high-rise building. There's some sort of strange entity in my penthouse. Well, you being Ghostbusters, can't you hurry up and find them? If things stay like this, the value of my penthouse will fall. Well, we certainly can't have that. You know, even though it's the highest paying job, I really don't think this is the most difficult level. The mini-bosses are really not too bad. Well, one of them is kind of a pain in the ass, but the other one's really easy. And as long as you have the phaser shell, the main boss isn't that bad either. I would have to say the Woody house is probably the most trouble of the lot. But hey, if they want to pay me, that's fine. And hey, giant fist! And we immediately see who it belongs to. 3 guesses on who the main boss of this level is going to be. First 2 don't count. So yes, in order to keep from taking too much damage from the giant marshmallowy fists, you will probably want to spend a lot of time on your belly in this level. Either that or be ready to duck at a moment's notice. Damn it, Slimer, I needed health. And this is the more aggravating of the 2 middle ghosts, and it took me a moment to remember, but the phaser shell is actually handy on a mini-boss for once. Well, it will be again, but this is the first time that's really been the case. We just have to gradually destroy all the segments of this, I don't know what to call it, dragon snake thing. Anyway, if you break it at the middle, it will split into 2 and kind of pin you in a corner, as you just saw. But, not too big a deal, at least it doesn't have any projectiles or the like. Just every now and then, I think on a set interval, it will break into pieces and bounce all over the level, and that is a real pain in the ass to avoid. I usually cannot, at least once it, or at least while it still has a lot of segments left. Once you've got it down to a small number of remaining parts, it becomes a little more of a viable thing to dodge the bouncing bits, but earlier on, not so much. It looks like I'm gonna have to break out my duck already. That's no fun. I am going to break out my duck, aren't I? Well, maybe I'm gonna Iron Man it. We'll see. I honestly couldn't remember what I did when I recorded this. Yeah, the joys of post-commentary. Now it's down to 1 segment, no real need to use the phaser shell anymore, so we will get our rate of fire back up. That's the real downside to the phaser shell. You can only have 1 very slow-moving projectile on the screen. So for enemies that aren't big and have a lot of space to pass through, or when you need to penetrate a lot of enemies in a row, then the benefit kind of goes away. Huh, I actually did manage to edge that one out without breaking out the Peking duck. Go me. Of course, I'm now running on fumes, and yeah, good time to stuff my face. Fortunately, that is by far the most troublesome of the mini-bosses here. Most troublesome of all the bosses, really, is Mr. Stay Puft is not going to be that big of a deal. He can be a pain if you don't have the phaser, but with it, he becomes a lot easier. And I get caught by the sheep ghost here, so you can at least see how that affects you. And the answer is not very much. It just wraps you up, and you have to take a few seconds to get yourself untangled. Took one right in the mush there, but as you can see, it does some damage, but not an overwhelming amount. I really kind of get a Home Sweet Home on steroids vibe out of this level. It's got a lot of the same enemy types, the sort of poltergeisty sheets and cutlery and dishes and what have you. It's just a lot bigger and has a slightly wider variety of other enemies. And of course the Marshmallow Fists. You can never forget the Marshmallow Fists. The cups take forever to destroy, so I just don't bother with them. Whenever you have a building like this, you're always going to want to climb to the top of it. It's just the natural King Kong in all of us, and in this case it rewards us with a little extra spending money. Oddly enough, we've got some swimming to do in this level as well. Fortunately, I imagine the water is a little bit more agreeable temperature-wise. I don't want bombs, I can't spend those. Really do like the music in this game. Alright, Middle Ghost number 2. This one's a lot easier. Don't really know what the hell it's supposed to be, but I always kind of thought of it as the Fabergé egg. Has a little bit of that look about it, and that kind of goes with the wealthy, stuffy lady who hired us for this. It's a ritzy place. They probably have a Fabergé egg or two sitting around the place, and hey, anything can become haunted, right? Anyway, pretty simple platform pattern here. It just kind of drifts back and forth at the top, and occasionally will fire a laser if you linger underneath it for a while. That's actually a good thing to bait out, because you have to hit it in the middle where the face is to do damage, and your best opportunity is when it is firing the laser. Every now and then it will do this bounce downward thing at you where you cannot damage it at all, so just get out of the way. Easy peasy. Oh, well that's convenient. It looks like I was right in the right place to continue on to the boss. No extra travel time. I appreciate that. Do you know how good toasted marshmallows taste? I love marshmallows. But one day I ate too much and then realized I had become the Marshmallow Man. I'll do the same to you. You'll enjoy it. You know, I'm pretty sure that is not actually the origin of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, Gozer? Does that mean anything to anyone? I put on my special suit for some damage reduction here, but it's really not that necessary. And you're probably seeing why the phaser shell is handy here. You can just fire a shot from either the left or the right, and let it drift slowly across his face, doing 4 to 5 hits of damage on the way. He has those green lasers from his eyes, and occasionally he will light up red and shoot a swirly fire at you. Which, if you time it right, is not that hard to jump over, as long as you don't make it follow you upward. And when you're too close to the edge of the screen, he'll just throw a punch at you. And that's all for Mr. Schmello. He's certainly no apothecary now.
That monster's gonna give me nightmares.
Ray, if someone asks you if you have a phaser shell, you say YES! Here's for your services. I wonder if it's not a little too much? Hell no. Give me money! It's done. We finally got all the pieces together. Now let's try to solve the mystery. What? There's nobody left here. Hey, we've got a letter. If you ever want to see those two people again, bring the tablet to the old castle located outside of town. Signed, Arthur. Exactly who is Arthur? I'll tell you, since you're a good customer of mine. Tell me, Grandpa Einstein, do you know this Arthur? In a word, a long time ago, Arthur was just like you and did research on ghosts. He came to my shop often, but after he found the tablet you're holding, he disappeared. What sort of power does the tablet have? I don't have any idea, but it has some relation to the recent activity of the ghosts for sure. Well, anyway, I'm gonna rescue my two friends. And of course, we're gonna want some duck to take along. Misclicked there. Now what we want is the weapon shop, where we can buy the final upgrade to our maximum energy. And it's off to the castle. What a horrible night to have a curse. 4 mid-bosses.
So you've come. Hand over the tablet.
Okay, I understand.
Finally, all the pieces are in place. I failed once, but I'll succeed this time. With this, my long years of effort will pay off.
Now give my friends back to me.
Both of them are in the castle somewhere. Look for them as you like. I don't know if they are okay or not.
Sorry, I try not to go too over the top with the goofy voices these days, but just look at Arthur, man. If anyone's ever been gagging for the Igor Yes Master treatment, it's that guy. Yeah, after we've finished the 4 initial levels that we can do in any order, the difficulty takes a little bit of a leap upward. The castle's quite a bit harder than any of the regular customers. As you saw, it does have 4 metal ghosts that we have to bust before we can continue onward. Things seem to start doing a bunch of damage here, relative to what we've seen before. And there are some environmental hazards that hurt quite a bit as well, and some tricky platforming. The main problem here is going to be one particular mid-boss, but we will see that entirely too soon for my liking. Haunted teddy bears that inflate into giant heads when you kill them, why not? You know, when you're on a ground level with these swinging blades, This is one of the few places in the game where it's actually really helpful to be Egon, because with Ray, who is the slowest of the characters as you may recall, you do kind of have to move through with careful timing and oftentimes jump at the end just to make sure you clear the blade. Egon can just kind of scoot right through with no problem. And of course it's a little easier for Peter as well. But yeah, dealing with those in general is one of the places that speed actually really counts. But still, all in all, I'd rather have just a little bit more resilience like our good friend Raymond here. These spherical barrier things with the three-way shot, not real dangerous, but just kind of a pain in the ass because they take a while to kill, and as you've seen twice now, if you move off the screen even a little bit, they just respawn on you. Hey, it's Pete! And we cannot actually damage him. Shooting at him just makes him fly back a little, which is no real help to us most of the time. Well, sometimes it can get him off your tail, but it doesn't help us win the battle. No, what we have to do is kill the smug little fucker who is following him around, because it is that is possessing him and making him try to kill us. Also, Ray is tanking those proton pack shots like a champion. I think those would be a little more lethal to human beings. But anyway, I'm actually doing pretty badly here. I usually don't get hit so much. This does not tend to be a particularly difficult battle. Also, spoiler warning, Egon is going to be exactly the same when we find him. Yeah, we just have to get our share of hits in on the little possession ghost there, and soon enough, all the bad stuff floats out of Peter. And we've got another bust under our collar. And I have to say, Peter, I think, has the best sprite in this game. Really, really looks like Bill Murray. The Dan Aykroyd one isn't too bad, but I really don't think Egon looks particularly like Harold Ramis. Anyway, I wasn't entirely sure when I was playing what the boss positioning was, and the next one I go to is not the one that I would want to go to. We'll see that shortly. First I'm going to make a stop and stock up. We don't have a customer conversation here because we are just working for ourselves this time. Just need to rescue our Ghostbuster comrades and find out what's going on with Arthur and that tablet that he seems so interested in. So, yeah. We've got 3 middle ghosts left. One of them would be the esteemed Dr. Spengler, which would be no problem, because it's exactly the same as the Peter Venkman fight. And of the remaining 2, one of them is no problem, and one of them, in my humble opinion, is the hardest boss in the entire game. Now, the sensible thing would be to go after either Egon or the boss that isn't horrible, but I didn't really know where the boss placements were exactly, so I just kind of went this way, and you can guess which one I encountered, with no lives remaining in reserve. You can probably guess by the remaining video length how well that worked out for me. So we'll just make our way up here through the nice verdant platforming. And make our way to the broccoli worm. The fucking broccoli worm. Yes, this goofy-looking caterpillar gives me more trouble than anything else in the game, including the end boss. Fortunately, the first phase at least is pretty easy, just spam shots at it until it breaks into pieces. Takes a while, but you should be able to bring it to its second phase before it squishes you against the wall. It's the second phase that is the big problem. As you can see, it splits into these eyeball segments, and you just have to destroy them all. They can take a fair amount of damage before expiring, but with the phaser shell and its multi-hit penetrating properties, it becomes a little easier. The only thing about this is, it is damned near impossible to avoid taking damage because you can never tell which of the broccoli worm segments will fly down at you at any given moment, and they move quite fast, and ducking will help a little, but it does not save you from damage, and you can't fire up or diagonally while you're ducking, so it makes it hard to get your hits in. So I am using both my special suit and my phaser shell, and burning through my energy at a decent clip. And of course, the very difficult to avoid diving attacks mean that I am also losing health at a pretty decent clip. I bring this one right down to the wire. I've used up my duck, I have a decent amount of health left, but energy is just about out. Can't run my shield anymore, can't fire my phaser shells anymore. But hey, it's almost dead, I just have to bring this down, right? Welp! Well, that could have gone better. But that's why we have future episodes and a mercifully generous supply of continues. Next time out, we'll take another crack at Arthur's Castle, but in the meantime, I would like to thank Justin Carpenter, Nolden, Zangamarth, Charlie Dunst, Anonymous Benefactor, John Madigan, Johnny Millennium, Sanguine Games, Joseph Coco, Misha Van Doren, Craig Patterson, Frank Grizzy, Tim J., Lolo DiPuzlo, Joshua C. Ritchie, and the rest of my various generous supporters, as well as all you good watchers, commenters, subscribers, and the rest of the gang. Always a pleasure. Take care, and I'll see you next time.